It's podcadzo.
All right.
All right.
Welcome back to podcadzo. That's what one of my buddies accidentally called the pod the other day.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Tell him to get it right or to not fucking say anything at all.
He is not my friend anymore.
Yeah,
After
thank
that, I
God.
will not be talking to him.
I was going to say, like,
Shout out Nate. I fucking hate you.
you
Just
piece
kidding.
of shit, Nate.
I love
I don't
Nate.
even know Nate. He sounds like a douchebag.
You'd like Nate a lot.
What you got there,
Oh, this is a Taos Bakes bar.
Taos Bakes?
My mom gave it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I was worried I might get a little hungry during the pod.
You seem a little hungry.
I'm not.
You're not hungry?
No.
Okay.
Why do I seem hungry? Why would you even say
You
that?
just seem, like, on edge.
That's because I've only had 2 PBRs. I need several more.
Get another couple in you, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, that's for sure. Did you, speaking of our podcasts, podcadzo, did
You're
you see
listening to it right
I
now.
fucked up the grunge episode?
Yeah, I saw there was no audio.
I'm such an idiot.
What happened?
Yeah,
Thanks for telling me, by the way. Ahead of time.
I was debating telling you, but I was like, I don't want to freak Julian out. Do you think the camera audio sounded good enough?
No.
No.
It sounds like shit.
It did sound pretty bad.
But it's a good episode.
I didn't want to. I know. I didn't want to scrap the whole episode. So we'll probably have to do another grunge
We've
episode.
already done it
I
twice.
know. That was the second time we've done it. The first time I recorded it, just for the audience, wasn't because I fucked that. I mean, we didn't have to record it again because
We
I
fucked up
the
in
first
other
one
ways
up.
and lost a band member.
Yeah, that one was recorded with someone who's no longer in the band. My brother, to be more specific.
Fuck you too, Cam.
Yeah.
We're throwing fuck yous out there.
Oh man, my blood's boiling. We're starting this
we're
episode off
fucking
hot, baby.
angry.
Woo!
All right. Yeah,
but-
we were going to come in hot. That was kind of the general idea anyway. So
Yeah.
stealing it from Always Sunny. Sorry, guys.
coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
But what happened with the grunge episode was I just accidentally deleted the audio off my computer. I thought I had bounced it already into track. I was real overwhelmed one day editing a podcast, and all the audio in the project was all jumbled up. So I was like, oh, I've used all of these stems. I don't need them anymore. And then I just fucking
Why are you
deleted them
overwhelmed?
all.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay.
What's going on? Keep it to
Um,
10 words or less.
I don't like you
Okay.
very much today, but other times, fuck. Other
That's
times
it.
is one. Other times is one word.
Other times is one word.
No, it's not. I don't know why I thought that at first.
Oh, man.
Ugh.
Well, sorry. I hijacked your story, but...
It's okay. I was just overwhelmed because I was like, a bunch of different podcast sessions were in the same session, and I was trying to come. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I got overwhelmed and hit the eject button without realizing I did not have the grunge audio.
Well,
in the
most of
video.
them have audio, so it's okay.
Yeah, we're still early in the pod. I think viewers will appreciate that.
Yeah, I think
it's kind of an endearing thing.
that episode still has 0 views. So
Good. No one watched that. I only wanted to keep it in because it was at the beginning of the episode, I gave you gifts, which one makes me look like a good guy, and 2 is important. It's a canon event in podcadzo.
it is.
Because
why
one of the gifts was the national, which we talked about in the episode prior, which
It
was
was
New
the
York
hat.
Indie Rock. The other gift was the Flea book, which you have to
Oh,
finish
yeah.
so we can do a Red Hot Chili Peppers episode.
Yeah,
So I just
gotta
wanted
start and
people
finish.
to know that I gave you gifts.
I finished Surrender.
The Bono book,
hmm
how was it?
It was cheesy.
Yeah.
It was pretty good though. I think I enjoy like the Unforgettable Fire era,
Mhm.
and I enjoy like kind of like the Octung Baby era. Like I would say those are like my 2 favorite. And he dwells on both of them. Like I didn't realize how
That's
much. I genuinely didn't realize how much intentional focus they put into like the studio recordings for like Octung Baby and Zooropa, which like they're definitely like produced, but like I just thought the producer did it. Like
mhm.
I didn't really realize that they were like U2 was intentionally trying to go super out there with it.
Did they not really care about the recordings in the previous album? Or no, they didn't care about them. But was it?
I think they just took like he says they wanted to like get real out there. Like for lack of a better term, like they just wanted to get crazy with it. And like before that, it was pretty much just like trying to make like chart topping like pop songs. But then it became about like getting weird, changing up like the production element a little bit, and approaching like the songwriting slightly differently. I think that's like kind of the turning point where Edge really started to get into like super duper getting into like pedals and like looping shit and like being like a bit more of like a soundscape guy. Because that shit kind of like he still does that. He still has like 80,000 pedals at any one given time, and like his guitar never sounds like a guitar.
Yeah. I would love to have like a book or a documentary about the making of the first album and like what went into the production there and how they recorded it.
He's really talking.
It has a great sound.
Early on in the book, he talks a lot about like like them coming up, them growing up, and like meeting, you know, their wives and like forming the connections that they have like for a while in the band. But it's really like from a more personal aspect, I feel like, where he's really saying like, this is what was going on, and also we were like in U2. And then it kind of shifts a little bit more to being like more focused on the songs. Because at first, cool. I think I said this last time we talked about the book, but the beginning of the book's not really about like the songs, which I thought it would be like, here's how we wrote these songs. That's what these songs are about. Like, but it's more, just kind of like him storytelling and like romanticizing childhood and like contextualizing that with the songs. But then it kind of shifts being about the songs a bit more, I feel like.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I had to check it out. The Flea book, not to spoil anything, but just to get you prepared for it, is interesting because it ends, the very end is him joining Red Hot Chili Peppers or starting Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Which is crazy because, he joined it so early still. So
I know.
Like, what?
It was like
16?
Early. No.
Or is that just when they started like jamming together?
They started playing together, but Anthony, like, he was in bands really early, like as early as 15 or 16. And I'm forgetting, he had like one long running band that was like pretty successful regionally, but they kind of broke up. And then him and Kiedis started jamming together under some weird name, and then it became Red Hot Chili Peppers. But yeah, he definitely had a crazy childhood. It's pretty interesting to read about. And he's a good, like, I liked his writing.
He seems like he'd be a really good storyteller.
Yeah.
Like, Bono obviously can talk about himself. The whole world knows that. But Flea, I think, takes a more, and I haven't read the book, but like just in life, he seems to take a more like artistic approach to things and definitely be more of like a wisdom storyteller as opposed to just like a fucking egomaniac showboater. I don't know if it's just me hating on Bono, but I get like, I still, even just through the book, get like a little bit of like I'm an egomaniac vibe, because it's just like what we were doing was so important and like we didn't know it, but we were like changing the world. And it's like, yeah, you did, but like we already know that. It's not why I'm reading the book.
At least like that.
But yeah, I think the funniest part about it is just like, I can't remember how many pages it is. I think it's like 400 something, mid 400 page book. But like, really, it starts and ends exactly the same way. It's kind of just like a book about Bono.
That's what the world needed at that time.
Sure.
I really believe that. Should we just make this U2 part 2 episode?
Let's U2 again.
No, I cannot. I need like 4 months, and then we can talk more.
U2. Have you gotten any shit for anything? Because the only episode I've gotten shit for was the U2 episode.
No.
And it's not even people necessarily that have watched it, but I just tell people like, hey, I do a podcast, and like, you know,
talk mostly about
people
U2.
Are like, what do you talk about? And I'm like, well, we've done like grunge, we've done blah blah blah, all this that. Also, we did U2 once because we actually like U2, and then everyone's like, oh my god, you definitely didn't need to do that.
Well, I don't want those people listening to our band or watching our podcast.
Fuck you too. Yeah. Heartfelt. Fuck you.
Fuck you too. Not fuck you too.
Fuck you too.
That sounded like a critical mistake you made. First off,
kind of fuck you too, though.
True.
The number one thing that
If
gets
you are a
mentioned is
true-
the Songs of Innocence thing.
Oh,
Everyone's like,
yeah.
"Oh, that band
Because
that
that's
put their
what
fucking
the
album on
only
my
thing
phone."
most people know about them.
Yeah, that's true.
They've never cared to go further. And most people only hate that because it became popular to hate that.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think people hated it from the very beginning.
I feel like most people wouldn't care that, like, oh, there's some random
felt
album.
like
I
a
can just remove
weird-
it from my library. But I think, like,
I think it
just
felt
because,
like an invasion of privacy, kind of. Like, people were like,
yeah.
this thing that I didn't want to be here on my phone just showed up without, like, my consent, without my permission. Like,
Yeah, but it's just, that's like complaining about, like, an app you don't want being on your phone.
yeah, but people do that all the time, too. People are like, why the fuck is there a calculator on my phone? I'm never going to use that.
A calculator? Everyone needs a calculator on their phone. Who would complain about that?
Some people
Probably
probably.
my most used app.
Yeah, well, some of us can add up basic math, like 2 + 2 and 10 + 10. Beyond that, I get a little bit lost.
You have me all.
Making sure we got audio.
Yeah, because you criticized
You brought
the
it up.
episode so heavily, I'm all paranoid.
You brought it up.
My screen accidentally locked. So I like watching it.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's fun. I'm a pro. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I know
you're
what I'm
a pro
doing.
now.
We're
like what?
podcast producer.
What episode number is this?
This will be 10 or 11 when we release it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Are we releasing them like in order? I kind of forget the order we were.
That's how I'm doing it so far. Eventually, we can change things up, I guess. Really getting inside
Put one in the
baseball
vault for
here
like
for
2
those-
years.
Yeah, we should have put grunge in the vault and then when we actually have listeners, just release it. Sorry for the bad audio here.
We can just like go over it and like overdub the audio.
Yeah, that'll take. Just what do they call that after a movie when actors will speak over their lines in like a studio? Anyways,
Isn't it called overdubbing?
I mean, that's the term we use, but I don't think like in the acting in the movie world
Really?
they call it overdubbing.
It's called something different.
Yeah. But speaking of
Seems like it's
recording,
Google.
yeah, Julian, you look that up. I really want to know. Speaking of recording, we just recorded drums to a few songs we're working on, and that was pretty cool.
I forgot I was gonna Google.
It's what's it called when actors overdub their lines? I'm a good Googler, dude. That's something I pride myself in. I get so angry watching other people use Google. They just call it voiceover.
Cutting loops,
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
dubbing. Dubbing
Maybe-
sounds like
yeah,
what
maybe
it's
let's call
called.
it dubbing, which
That's
overdubbing,
the
dubbing.
same thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
Just
Well, now
because
we know.
I've seen the show Entourage, that I know about this.
Yeah, I've never
Have
seen
you seen
Entourage,
Entourage?
so I have no idea what you're talking about. I've
It's-
seen the beginning part of it when I got, what is that, HBO?
Yeah.
I got HBO like a year ago, and I got all excited, and then I watched like part of it, and then kind of forgot that I started it. But it's good. What I've seen, it's funny.
It's good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Cool. I felt like I didn't tell people I liked that show for a while because I thought it was kind of like a douchey show to like for some reason.
Robert watched it. Fuck you, Robert, if you're watching this. Another
Say his last
fuck
name
you.
too, so
No,
so
that
people
seems
really
like,
know.
it just seems like a bit.
Say
much.
his Instagram handle.
I'll just say foreign words. Fuck foreign words. He watched it like a few years ago, and he got super into it. And we generally tend to like most of the same things, so
Yeah.
it seemed like. And yeah, I enjoyed what I saw, but I just kind of forgot about it, and then never got anywhere with it. So I think I fell asleep through most of it too. Like I watched an
Watched it
entire
late at
season
night.
like one night when I was
Mhm.
asleep.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I was like, it's season 4, and I was like, what the fuck's
That
happening?
often, and then you have to find where you left off, and that's always a pain.
It depends on the show. Sometimes I just kind of, yeah, doesn't matter.
Entourage, you don't need to follow the plot super closely,
Yeah.
but you should.
So you were gonna say something.
I was gonna say we just recorded some tracks.
Oh, that.
That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, they felt good. So we recorded drums. The songs, maybe, who knows, could be out by the time this podcast is out.
I think we want to put them out quickly. I don't want to do the fucking big roll up to it. Just I
Yeah.
don't know.
We just kind of need like a piece of art and like.
I'm
You
just
need,
gonna
like,
take
mix the
pictures
damn
of
thing.
myself in my underwear wearing a cowboy hat. Is what I was thinking. Post it.
Hell yeah! Make sure it's like when dudes take dick pics, but it's like from down here, like
Dudes do
from
that?
like
How
below.
many dick pics do you look at?
Several a day.
So it's like
It's just for
below-
research purposes.
for this podcast.
Yeah. So, well, for just for life, want to know how I can change it up, how I can make my dick pics more interesting. Also, just want to know, like, what do we got for dicks out there? What are dicks looking like these days?
I feel like a dick pic has the same rules as a selfie, where you don't want to take it from below. That's a bad angle.
Yeah,
Looking
exactly.
up. Above is the move.
But dudes do
But for
take it from
some
below.
dudes with a big, so I'm not talking to the mic. For some dudes with a big belly, taking above could be troublesome, because the belly could like block the angle.
I mean,
they'd
belly
have to
is
take it out like this.
Coming from me, belly's troublesome.
Yeah.
No matter what angle.
When was the
It's
last
like
time you even saw it?
my
Your
peener?
penis.
It's been years.
I'm just joking.
I just
Yeah,
know that
fat.
it's there because, like, every now and then, I need to pee
Mm-hmm.
or, like, something warm will touch it and it'll get a little hard.
All right.
That's how I know it's still there.
Let's go back to recording
So,
these
yeah,
new
recording the
songs.
tracks. It was real good. The songs, I
People
think.
said I should open my beers closer to the mic.
Wow.
ASMR.
That was very satisfying. Speaking of things that make my penis
That was
hard.
not satisfying.
Sorry. Just trying to grab onto it. The songs are like a good continuation, I feel like, from the first 4 that are out. The one of the songs, I mean, how much do we want to talk about it? One of the songs is like a song that has been around for a long time, like probably since the beginning of Cadzo,
Mm-hmm.
probably since before we even.
Yeah.
It's been around for a minute. But yeah, so that one, we had already tracked drums to it once before, and it was before Will Benson had joined the group, and so
Shout out Benson.
shout out Benson. Also, fuck you, Benson. Keep
Yeah.
it consistent, baby.
Why are you here?
Yeah, where? Missouri?
He's in Missouri.
Yeah, sorry.
Hope you're
to
having a good
give
time.
up your geolocation to everybody.
This will be out weeks after he's left.
Or
But
will
I
it
guess
be?
they could find he was in Missouri and track him down from
Yeah,
there
they could
by
find
like credit
his like
card
travel
records.
patterns.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Will seems like an easy guy to track.
Yeah, he definitely wouldn't cover much up. He's very open
Yeah.
to a fault. Yeah, whatever. Fuck. That's why fuck Benson,
Mhm.
right? He does
I-
nothing.
I don't think fuck Benson. I love you, Will.
Oh,
But
That's
I
awkward.
understand why you think that.
yeah. We got a history.
Because he's a piece of shit. Hopefully he'll be on the next
He'll be
episode.
on sometime soon. Yeah. So anyway, that song that had been around for a while, Benson added a part 2 after I had recorded drums. So it kind of just felt like my drum part from before was a little old and outdated. So I kind of changed it. It's definitely more I think it's a little more sassy than the original part. The original part was kind of just like
sassy.
fitting in
Mhm.
where it should have fit in, and then this part I think has a little more stank on it. So I had more fun with this part overall, I think.
Even though we've changed very little about the song from then until now, it's like awesome how much it's taken its own shape, for like lack of better words. I used to, when we would jam that like towards the beginning of this project, or even before that, I would feel like I didn't enjoy playing it. Whenever we did play it, I was like, I don't know if this is that strong of a song. But lately, like playing it live down here when we rehearse, and then in tracking it and listening to the demos we've done prior, like it's one of my favorite songs now to play, and like just in general.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think right now, probably my favorite song to play because it has different parts, like obviously songs have different parts, but
Doy.
it's got like
Some songs
nice.
don't, actually.
Yeah, some songs I guess don't, but for the most part, songs have at least 2 parts. This song's got like I think kind of a different layout of parts than we normally do, where like there is what could be considered like a breakdown almost, where it's just like a rhythmic and melodic section. There's, I feel like, recapitulations of ideas, but they're kind of different each time, at least on my side of things. Like, I kind of don't really do the same thing twice, which is always fun for me because
it makes it way more dynamic.
I like to try to not do the same thing twice, and a song that gives you an excuse to not do the same thing twice is always really kind of fun to track.
And structurally, I like repeat the same parts in a way that makes sense to me, so it follows like a pattern to me, which can get really boring. But I think you doing different drum parts like breaks it up and makes it more dynamic. Like
Totally. And I think just kind of taking what would be like a relatively traditional part and making it like just adding unnecessary notes to it, I guess, is kind of been my thing that I am interested in. So
not unnecessary.
Depending,
Who's to say
like,
what's
well,
necessary,
yeah,
what's
exactly.
yeah.
What I know there's a
Doing
lot of
more than
drummers
the
out
bare
there.
minimum.
Yeah, there's
is
a lot
what
of
you're
drummers and sound recordists out there who would be like, you should take some notes out of that part, but
Yeah.
fuck them.
Yeah. Well, no, it like I have if I said you like were sometimes a Keith Moon style drummer, does that resonate with you at all, or are you like fuck no? Is that too basic of a thing
Not
to
too
say?
basic. I think it's mostly just if it isn't I don't doubt that there's crossover influences, but I think it's more that like drummers that I listen to Keith Moon, because I definitely know that what he did was like kind of a similar mindset that I have. I just didn't necessarily pick any of that up from him immediately, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think like these days, a lot of the drumming that I try to do is inspired by only like a couple very specific drummers. But that's because I'm trying to enter like a very different headspace with like these songs than I would normally be in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm like intentionally trying to do things that aren't just immediately the first thing that come to my mind, if that makes sense.
For sure. I brought it up because around the time we were tracking the first album, I was listening to a lot of the Who. And I've always loved the Who. But because I was listening to a lot of the Who and then, mixing those songs, and I was like, not to compare myself to Townsend at all, but like I was like, we almost have a Townsend Keith Moon thing going on sometimes. Where like,
well, because a lot of what I do is playing into your parts. Like I'm trying to line up specifically with your guitar or your vocals.
I love how like loose and athletic it feels when we're like both hitting like the same strikes and like random strumming patterns.
Totally. Because your guitar tends to be more of like a decorative texture type thing. It's not necessarily like outlining the song. And I feel like, the traditional thing is bass and drums like outline the song.
Yeah.
But because I think largely because we're like not playing with a bass player right now, I'm only really trying to line up with what you're doing. So by the virtue of that, it gives us a lot less of like linear drum part and like repetitive drum part, because I'm definitely trying to just lock in with you. And I know that that's like a Keith Moon thing all the way through and through, is like that dude literally like tried to only focus on the guitar. Like that was his main thing. And not to like circle back too much, but Larry Mullen Jr. also has said that he only listens to Bono's vocals when he's tracking drums. So,
really? His vocals?
Super interesting. He only plays to vocals. Wow. He doesn't even listen to bass.
That's crazy.
So,
is it clicking vocals? I mean, imagine it's
I don't even know, in terms of recording, I don't know if they have vocals recorded when he's recording drums, but for the purposes of like live and songwriting, like he's like
gotcha.
when he's on
Recording.
stage, the only thing in his wedge and in his ears is vocals. Like he doesn't have anything else.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Which I picked up from a video that Edge and Bono did with Zane Lowe about their MSG Sphere tour thing. So
cool.
yeah.
Zane Lowe. He just did a Damon Albarn interview. Have you been listening to the new Blur?
I have a little bit, yeah. I think it's interesting. So, like, just to summarize it super quickly, like, Britpop, kind of like upward trajectory into like somewhat of like an experimental like rock thing going on with like the Magic Whip and stuff. And then it kind of like goes back a little bit. Like, I feel like they kind of went, it's like a return to form slightly, which I did not anticipate at all.
I didn't either. This might sound too out there, but when I saw the album cover, I was like,
you knew, right?
Yeah, I was like, are they like, is this more of a throwback than the Magic Whip? And yeah, but I'm really excited for the full album. I've liked the singles so far.
The album's out.
The full album's out?
Yeah.
I thought they only released 2 singles
No,
so far.
the album's been out for like a few weeks.
What the fuck?
That's what I thought you were asking if I listened to the album. No, dude, you're gonna love it.
Okay, Jesus, I'm embarrassed.
Listen to it on the drive home.
I mean, yeah, I will.
You're gonna
listen.
fucking love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm stoked. Yeah. Well, the only thing, and I follow Blur on Instagram. I should know this, but the only thing I was getting from like my new music things were singles. And I didn't even think to go and check the full album. I thought they were still just releasing singles to tease it.
Do you use
I was using Apple
the S
Music.
word? Okay.
Yeah, I don't use the S word.
Good. I use the S word, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I used to be on Tidal, and then
Ooh, Tidal.
there's just some things that they didn't have on Tidal that I wanted to listen to. And
Yeah.
I also have tried Apple Music. I don't like the interface of Apple Music as much. It's not as easy to use.
That's probably just because you're more used to Spotify. Because
Maybe.
for me, I love the interface Apple Music, and going to Spotify for me is like insane.
At this point, I don't
Gives
want to
me a
use
headache.
I don't want to lose like the years of data that my Spotify has, because
You
it's
got some
gotten
good
pretty good.
algorithms.
It's gotten pretty good at tailoring my algorithm.
Yeah. Apple Music's all over the place for me. Because sometimes when I'm like doing sound, I have to play playlists.
Yeah, like in between.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I'm playing music off of Apple Music for other people way more than I should.
How do
so
you-
it fucks my algorithm?
How do you like listen to music
Well,
when you're in the car and stuff?
I usually listen to a full album that I want to in the car. Like I still
That's
put on albums.
what I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like if it's just a short drive, I'll just go to my library. Like usually, I just shuffle my downloaded music, and obviously that's all stuff I put on there, so it's good for me. But like the playlist that Apple Music makes for me, I try listening to. I'm like, I don't like any of this.
Yeah, that's the issue I have with Spotify too.
Uh-huh.
It's always like recommending shit and giving, like, if you try a playlist, it'll like slip in songs that you don't listen to, and it tries. You can tell that it's gathered, but it's not. It's like a very surface level effort.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, and you can tell the like paid promotions and shit are
Totally.
working their way, and like there's songs that don't belong. It's like,
yeah.
I
I guess that's kind of amongst all of the streaming platforms. Even like, as I love YouTube, I think YouTube reigns supreme.
Yeah.
But even YouTube kind of has that issue a little bit, where it's like it'll start to target you a little bit, and it'll start to throw things at you that you want
knows you
nothing
don't
to do
like,
with. But that's the age we live in. So
On the topic of new music, we're in a cool period right now of like a lot of good new music coming out. And I'm trying not to take for granted the fact that Noel Gallagher and Blur released new albums
Okay.
in like the exact same month, because I'm like, wow, Britpop is still alive.
I listened to the Noel Gallagher album.
Yeah, I don't like it. Do you like it? I shouldn't say I don't like it. To me, it was just so...
It's bland,
Yeah.
but I think that it might be like some of his better work.
Yeah, I will
like, it's always going to be bland to me.
Yeah.
It's always going to be bland in general, because that's kind of the point, is it's like, it's music that doesn't sound like it gives a shit, but like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty well put together.
Can you pull up the track listing for it real
Yeah.
quick? I'm trying to remember.
I like the artwork for it too.
Yeah, Council Skies. Part of me, I do like it. Part of me only criticized it so heavily at first because I was.
I
It
mean,
was
you
my
probably
attempt
have
to
way
find
higher
com-
expectations
Well, I
than
do,
I do.
and I love.
Whoa.
Dead to the World is what
I
I'm thinking
definitely didn't listen to this many songs.
of.
I must not have finished it.
These aren't in order. This isn't any particular sequence, but oh, that had like extra instrumental shit on it. That was some deluxe
Okay.
version.
I was like, I did not. I think, okay, so those two, but then shout out to the new Queens of the Stone Age album, which won't be
Yes.
new anymore, I guess,
By
but
the
it's
time-
amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to the new King Gizzard, because
New
it's
King
also
Giz.
super fucking good. Do you listen to Y Oak by chance?
I do. I have not listened to the new album, but I like Wyoke.
Did you listen to any of like the singles?
No.
They just put, so it's like they've been releasing singles since like 2017 or something
Mhm.
like that. And they just kind of put a bunch of those singles on the album and some new songs too. But like the way that it's put together and the way that it flows, it's like fucking beautiful. Also, Pitchfork gave it a perfect 10, which I don't think
Wow.
I've ever seen before. They said that it's their third perfect 10.
Only third.
No, like it's Y Oak's third perfect 10.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. But Pitchfork, some bands just get in there and
Yeah, but Y Oak, they're definitely, I
not
feel
to
like,
discount Wyoke.
under the radar. They're not one of those just, it's not like Taylor Swift where it's like, yeah, she's fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah.
they're actually good.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to the album.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you
11
like-
songs.
Yeah, 11 songs. Do you like TV Girl? You ever listen to them?
Without getting into too much detail, there used to be some people that listened to that band that they just burnt it to the ground for me. It was like at work, and there was people always playing it like at work, and it just, by virtue of hearing it so much, it made me hate it before I was able to like give it a chance.
Yeah.
So
You
I
should
haven't listened to them.
go back and check it out.
Okay.
'Cause I love. Oh, there it is. Actually, new release in alternative Grapes Upon the Vine.
Oh,
TV
that's
Girl.
funny.
Yeah, that is funny. But yeah, I'm a big fan of theirs. They were in our previous bands, Wax Romantics. TV Girl was like a big inspiration for what I was trying to do over there. Like
Oh, okay.
cool samples and kind of quirky-ish songwriting anyway. But yeah, I like the new album too. It's good. And then there's one other new album I'm listening to by Tan Lines.
I don't know who that is.
Search that one up.
Tan Lines. Oh, they look like a bunch of fun.
Mm-hmm. What's the new album called? The Big Mess. I think you'll like this, Julian. I got into Tan Lines with the 2015 album they released. I think it's called Highlights. If you go back to the discography, I'll see it. But yeah, Highlights. That's the one. That's a really good album.
Damn, they waited a long time.
Yeah, they're a cool, like, really interesting group. I should learn more about them. But yeah, let me know. Check out that album. Let me know what you think.
All
of
right,
it.
I'll check them both out.
And then Yeah is also released.
Yeah, the
new
Yeah Yeah
album.
Yeahs album is pretty good.
Mhm, Spitting Off the Edge of the World.
Yeah, that was like kind of a while ago.
Yeah, it still just comes up on my new music
so good.
playlist, which is why I'm thinking of it.
Well, since we're here, fucking this, I'm not necessarily recommending this to you, but I've been obsessed with this. This is a recommendation from a friend, but the band Sanguisugabog. They're just like,
Sanguisugabog.
they're like kind of groovy,
Sanguisugabog.
doom,
That's fun to
sludgy, like
say.
death metal.
Uh-huh.
This album, Homicidal Ecstasy, is fucking amazing. And it came out, I think, this year? Yeah, February 2023.
Cool.
So it's fucking
I'll check that one out too.
dope. And then, yeah, the new Y Oak. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, what a time to be alive.
The new
Some good
Suicide
music
Boys.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think honestly, like the thing that I've been the most excited about, besides the Wyoke, is the Queens of the Stone Age.
Yes.
Super good.
I'm very excited about it. I've been watching a lot of their live footage they've been putting out too from like festivals.
Yeah.
And they're very tight live. The new songs sound great. I would love to see a Queen show on this tour.
I'm gonna be going.
Where are they playing?
It's at Fiddler's Green.
Fiddler's Green. Is it sold out yet?
Probably.
Fuck, dude.
But you can.
When did you buy
definitely
tickets?
Find a ticket. Like the pre-sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's the show?
I think it's in August or September.
Okay.
I think it's like I'm also going to see the Postal Service and Def Cab.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
it's either like the day before or the day after. Like they're back to back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna be
That's fun.
sleeping.
Also at Fiddler's?
I think the Postal Service is at Mission Ballroom, which I'm pretty fucking excited about.
That's a great venue.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite one. I think. Well, as far as like huge, like fully blown like professional venues, it's probably the best one we got.
Yeah, I would agree. I went to a show at. Oh no, I'm not gonna be able to remember the name. Something Pavilion in Denver. It's by Ruby Hill Bike Park and shit. Anyways, I'd never been there, and it's like a really cool amphitheater in this park, and it's basically built on the underside of a
telling me
hill.
about this.
I saw Soccer Mommy there.
Nice.
It was a free show. Is
Really?
it Carter Pavilion? It's something like that. It'll pop into my brain later. But yeah, you should go to a show there. It was a really fun time. I like that venue. The sound was like just okay.
Yeah, I think.
That's
sure I understand.
Oh, fuck you.
I guess there's a mall called Denver Pavilion. Do not know that. Levitt Pavilion. That's it.
Yep, that's the one.
Yep.
Yeah, that place I've heard some things about from some different people, so maybe it's time to check it out. It's weird how many just random new venues seem to be kind of popping up. It was at ASMR time.
Ooh, actually did.
How the fuck did you hear that from all the way upstairs?
I'm not giving you any of this olive.
Fuck. Oh, the shit. What was I gonna say? Well, it's not worth it now. It's gone. But yeah, lots of good music.
Is that your playlist? May 23 early fuck it.
Yeah, so I always make like a playlist for each month of the
Oh, that's cool.
each month of the year.
I like that you do that.
Do you want to check out May? Let's see. We got some National, some Metallica, some Bon Iver, some Feist, some Collinwald City. Shout out Collinwald City. They're fucking
that.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Some Grizzly Bear, some Thrice, more National, some Suicide Boys. Kind of all over the place.
You're a big Suicide Boys fan, huh?
Only I feel like I'm kind of getting away from it now. I discovered them like pretty recently. I want to say like at the end of 2021 was when I really found out about them.
It's not
And
that recent.
They have no, it's not. They have a very large discography. The songs are short, but they just have so many releases that it still winds up being a decent amount of music. So it took me kind of a while to go through it and really digest all of it and figure out what I liked and what I was iffy about. And then I kind of didn't listen to them for a while, and then they put out an album like earlier this year, so I had to listen to that, and then that was good. And they've been just putting shit out ever since, so it's kind of like every time they put something out, I want to listen to it just because I want to know if it's any good or not.
Yeah.
And then the latest thing that they put out was like 4 EPs released like 4 weeks apart, and it's just like a completely different sound for them. Like it's the whole thing. Every track is like vocal processed. They have like they're like playing new characters, if you will. Like they have 2 new like nicknames for themselves and shit, and they kind of play off of different themes. the production is super different. Like it's all just kind of a breath of fresh air, I feel like. So it was kind of like, well, fuck, I guess I'm obsessed with this shit now because
That's
it's just
cool.
different enough that it's
I've heard
exciting.
a little. I think pay
You
them
definitely
enough
wouldn't.
attention.
You wouldn't like them.
I think no. I've listened to Suicide Boys. I fuck with them lightly. Why? Why did you not think?
I just think they're a little bit. There's maybe not enough going on to be like interesting for the long term, perhaps.
Okay.
But
I'm
mean,
a very
who knows?
very casual listener.
Yeah.
I'll listen to new stuff more in depth. Do you like 100 Gex?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes. The new 100 Gex is very good.
Very good. When you said shorter songs, but a lot of them made me jump right to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like more. It's like a more accessible version of their formula. I feel like it's a little bit dialed back, a little bit more like pop influenced, maybe, but still super fucking out there and pretty weird. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, 100 Gex is a cool one. I liked the first album when it came out. What year did the first one come out?
It came out like mid 2010s, right?
Yeah, that's what I was wanting to say, like 2016. I could be off though.
2015, 2016, I think. 2017.
2017. But yeah,
It feels like they've been around for longer than that.
When that album came out, I was into it, but like never super in. And then listening to the latest album, it's made me 2019. Well, maybe I was just listening to releases before that.
Yeah, they had EPs out before that.
But anyways, yeah, it's they're a cool group.
Yeah, they're very interesting, and I think what's cool about them is kind of like a refinement of the formula that they're seeking. Like it's kind of just not a rehash of the same thing, but like a re-visualized like idea of kind of a constant trajectory. It's kind of how I feel about that band Black Midi too, which just like kind of maintains a similar aesthetic and sound throughout, but it gets like more progressively kind of fucking crazy each time.
Yeah. Yeah, Black Midi's good as well.
Yeah, I fucking love Black Midi. They're so good. They just don't give a fuck what they do. Like they're so like free in all of their. I did not know you could do this with Spotify.
Yeah.
Seems like it'd be pointless.
I never used the web interface.
Well, you use Apple Music, so.
Well, I have a Spotify, a free one.
A premium?
No, not
premium.
premium.
I was gonna say if you're paying for
free
both,
one.
you're just
The
a little
free
bitch.
one is unusable almost.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
They make it that way on purpose.
What the fuck is up with everything? Oh, good shift from Spotify technology to you wanted to talk about AI a little bit, I think, because we were talking about that before rehearsal today.
I just kind of wanted to mention, like, the fact that it's like so relevant right now, and kind of see like, because we didn't have any other ideas of what to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I haven't been reading a lot about it necessarily, not compared to like how much other people are reading about it, but I've been thinking about it a decent bit and just kind of wondering like, are you scared? Because I'm scared. And also, do you think humanity will like buy into it, or do you think we'll ultimately choose to reject it? And do you even think that's our choice?
I've been trying not to think about it too much lately, because thinking about it does depress me. I think on a super psychedelic level, it's weird to like think about society coming this far, advancing so much, like unknowingly working towards something for so long, only for it to be this like super intelligence that will probably replace us or like threaten us in some way in the future. And then we've had this like just weird hive mind towards achieving that, if you look at the big picture, and especially lately. I like right now what everyone rages about is like OpenAI and ChatGPT, which at first did concern me, and people were really playing up the, AI is going to replace your job and all this stuff. ChatGPT, not to say AI couldn't do that one day, but ChatGPT specifically is like based off, and I know I'm totally talking out of my ass here, so I could be wrong. But from what I understand, it's based off of like chess AI, for
That's how
like
it
computer
started.
player, chess, which all that does is predict or guess the best next move to make. So ChatGPT is doing the same thing, but just trying to guess like the next best word to put down or that sort of stuff, for example. So unless that's your job, I think you're good. But then like all the AI generated art, visual art, and then AI generated music does like bother me in a weird way, where I do feel kind of stupid and useless, and like what's the point of being here? But at the same time, I think, well, you'll always need people making music because people want something real to be like excited about and a fan of. You can like AI music, and that will probably become common in the future. And for all intents and purposes, a lot of the music that people listen to nowadays might as well be AI music because it's so formulaic. People are just grabbing samples, chopping it up on Ableton, throwing it together, promoting it on Spotify, and it gets put on all these playlists and gets millions of views.
That's the scary thing,
listens.
though, is that those are the people that won't notice or give a fuck, and that's the majority of what. That's the majority of people these days.
But also, like, yeah, and it's been that way forever. But they're not people I'm interested in or care about, and they're not going to care about music anyways. To some people, it really is just something to fill the space. It could be anything as long as it's like happy and has a good beat. But I do, I just, like I was saying, like when you hear an AI produce, like have you heard like the AI Nirvana or something?
Yeah.
It's like sounds just like Nirvana, and it's like, is this worth anything? Like, what are we doing? Does this matter? What's the point of being alive?
It's like in its gimmick phase where like it's still a new thing, so we're all kind of just like pointing and laughing at it. But like once it's not in that phase anymore, once it's just like a normal thing, I think that's when it'll be a little bit more scary because it will be less about making the choice and it'll just be more about like learning to accept it as a new reality. Which, as far as like job replacement goes, they say that the way that AI is developing, like 80 to 85% of like service jobs and retail jobs could be fully automated before the decade's over.
Well, a lot of like fucking idiots always who are like all for AI defend it by being like, it takes the grunt work out of your job, like, and frees up more space for you to be creative and like do what only humans could do. It's like, well, those jobs are pretty few and far between,
right?
Where it's not just grunt work,
right? And we can humans have been good at finding other jobs this whole time. Like the issue will never be like,
but is
that
that
there's
how
no jobs?
Is that how it happens? Like those jobs become servicing the computers in a weird, not like
Probably
being IT technicians, but something
you watch
like
the computer
serving the AI, and then like that's how it grows, and we become slaves to the super machines.
But we're already kind of slaves to just an analog version of the same thing. Like
That's true.
The money that we make isn't our money, and like I run a business, you work inside of a large business. Like the money that we generate as individuals isn't money for us necessarily, and the jobs that we do are just small parts of like a bigger overall picture. So like that being replaced by AI,
serving like an unknown cause.
Yeah, that's kind of the easy transition. I guess the hard transition is feeling like we're doing less because our jobs aren't as maybe critical to the process as they once were. We're not actually engaging in the process. We're just supervising the process. But like humans will adapt, and like in a world where we all rely on like an income-based economy, like
I
that can't just like cease to exist because AI is replacing jobs, or at least I don't think it can. Maybe I'm fucking wrong, but that's been the thing we've feared as humanity, like for decades, if not longer, is that we'll make ourselves completely irrelevant, and yet we've
obsolete.
done it despite our fears and our best efforts.
We've been
to
working
not,
really hard to do it,
Yeah.
unnecessarily hard.
considering that
And
no
I
one
work
really
like
wants
I
it.
work in tech, and that's all anyone talks about is AI and how do we monetize it and how does it become the next big thing. And I feel like there are a lot of just honestly like irresponsible people just who want to take it as far as they can because they are like maybe nihilists in a way and they don't care. And like, you know.
Well, and right now, the
I
first person to really sell it on a large scale will be the first person to make a huge fucking nut. So I think that's another part of it is like once it becomes commonplace, it won't necessarily be a super profitable thing anymore. It'll just be like the equivalent of like buying a new car. Like, oh, we need to go buy a new fucking butler robot to do all of our housework.
But it doesn't matter because like it's learning by itself and no one really knows how it works. So it doesn't matter if people are actively interested in it, but when it becomes like ubiquitous enough where like everyone's engaging with AI either knowingly or unknowingly, that's way more users and data for like the AI to learn off of, and that's how it becomes like crazy advanced. No one even fucking knows how it's doing that or how to stop it. And I think we should have stopped developing technology in like 1998, 2003. I don't know, somewhere in between that time. I think we got far enough. Life was pretty good for me as a 5-year-old then.
Yeah, but I mean, even then there was like, and this is obviously coming from a very selfish point of view, since everyone always thinks that when they grew up was the best time to grow up. But like, I really think we came up when technology was bettering our lives and assisting us with things we needed assistance with, but it wasn't yet something that we were like centralizing in our life. Like now it's like and I mean, I don't necessarily like it this way, but it is this way. Like you need to have a smartphone. Like we need to have smartphones to do our jobs. Like we need to have smartphones in certain ways to engage with the world around us. Yeah, like fuck, you go into a restaurant, you need a fucking something to scan a QR so you can pull up the menu. Like it's just, it's overwhelmed to the point where, it's a necessity more than it is like a tool that you use to assist yourself in your life. And that's just obviously not anything we can come back from now. Like, that won't be, like, we won't all have flip phones tomorrow, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, like, AI, we're still kind of at a point where we can make a choice where it's like, do we want it to really be all encompassing in our lives, or can we make the choice to say, fuck this, we still, the grunt work is the grunt work, but that's kind of like what, unfortunately, like what humans have conditioned themselves to be doing is grunt work. So
to bring it back to music, with the whole like AI generated music, first talking Oasis, did you hear the fake AI Oasis album?
I didn't.
I think they just called it like AI Oasis or something. But it's pretty incredible.
Is it good?
It's a human or a band perhaps wrote all of the music, and then they generated Liam Gallagher vocals via AI. So it's still a person behind it in some way, but it's really good. It's crazy. And it sounds just like them, like early Oasis too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's like, I don't necessarily know at what point this is AI or if it's just like hologram shit, but like Paul McCartney was like using AI to like finish an unwritten like John Lennon verse or something like that. And someone's doing the same thing with Biggie, like making the posthumous Biggie album finally with AI.
They did that with R. Kelly.
Oh
Released a whole
God!
R. Kelly. Yeah. I think they
See,
did.
we've already gone too far. Why are we even having this conversation? We gotta pack it up and just throw it all away if that's what we're doing with it.
I've been thinking about R. Kelly lately and how insane it is that he exists.
And
all
he's
that
still-
shit happened.
He's sitting in jail and he still thinks he didn't do anything. In his mind, he knows he didn't do anything wrong. It's like, oh, that camera did not want to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. R. Kelly, it's out.
But yeah, no, it's very interesting, and I agree. Like, sometimes I will think about it, or even just like, well,
And just the music he made. Like, what's that song where he's singing in the closet? Where he's like hiding in the closet.
yeah, like
And
all of
then
his shit was
Where he
predatory.
was like, I'm not getting you when he opened the door. It was a midget. I don't know how that actually goes. There's a part like that where the guy who came home was a midget. And he sings that very passionately and seriously. And it's insane. It's insane that was
We all let that happen.
that happened.
We all let it.
Yeah.
We didn't cancel him for that.
No, that's where he should have been stopped.
We should have been like, all right, that's enough, guy.
Mhm.
You've made enough money.
This has gone too far. You cannot sing anything you want to in your silky smooth R&B voice and have it be successful.
But that's where you're wrong, kiddo, because that's exactly what he did.
That's what happened.
People still listen to him. Let's see how many. Is he still on? Yeah, of course he's still on Spotify. 4 million monthly listeners.
That's so
Almost
crazy.
5 million monthly listeners.
That's so funny. 5 million.
And his
people.
most popular song is still Ignition.
Followed by, I believe, wow, by a long shot.
Yeah, it's not
I
even
believe
close.
I Can Fly would be closer.
No, and these are like actual songs, and they're below. They're all below. Well, this one's above 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Bump and grind, baby. Yeah, what a piece of trash.
Yeah. Insane. Do you think that, like, I'm not saying I think this, but it's weird that, and maybe there is this debate, but that people aren't, like, upset that Spotify still has his music up there.
It's a lose-lose, I think, especially if you are like Spotify or Apple Music, YouTube, whatever. If you pull the shit down, then you have people bitching that you're
Then
fucking
you lose
with art.
5 million people.
Oh yeah,
want to listen to R.
purely yeah,
Kelly.
you might be losing sales. There's probably people that have Spotify's just to listen to R. Kelly like every day.
Yeah.
Ignition.
I'm almost
On
positive
repeat.
there's a lot of people who
But-
have that.
That combined with the cultural significance of if you remove the art, then you possibly are affecting the culture or people's ability to like judge the culture for themselves or whatever. Because in theory, like, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the sentimentality of this in like every context, but like we should really be able to remove art from artists, and like the
I agree.
music, you're not necessarily like a piece of shit for listening to R. Kelly. If you listen to R. Kelly and you say that he did nothing wrong and that like there's no red flags, then that's when you're kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
If you just are in denial about it because you like his music, that's a different issue. Like you have to be able to like the music but still call the person out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people struggle big time with that. So I don't think streamers are like interested in having that part of like the culture war conversation. And then if you leave their shit on, you're a piece of shit for leaving that shit on. You're a piece of shit for listening to it. It should be removed, like according to some people. But
It's like
if you don't like it, just don't fucking listen to it. It's the same thing as like the news. You don't like fucking CNN or MSNBC or Fox, then just watch a different news channel.
I feel like Michael Jackson was the first time people were like really talking about separating the art from the artist. Excuse me.
And all he did was
Granola
fucking
bar.
dangle a kid out of a fucking, like, he didn't do
I never
shit.
actually. I think he did more than that.
Well, probably.
I never saw that at Adventureland or Imagination Land or whatever that documentary is called. But yeah, I was thinking like of course we shouldn't stop listening to Michael Jackson songs. Like that's like destroying something pretty special
It's
from the
erasing
world, like
decades worth
erasing
of
a
cultural
really
significance.
and like the song becomes like the sum of all of the things it meant to other people. And for like Michael Jackson songs, that's a lot. And so like people listening to it are aware that like it is kind of detached from the artist at that point because it like belongs to everybody. It's like
well,
such
and Michael
it's
Jackson, the artist, was totally different from Michael Jackson, the person.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You know,
Yeah. And if unfortunately it's this way, but if we can only like art from people who were good people and did nothing wrong, there's not a lot of great art to
Right.
enjoy them. And yeah, it's just, they create something, and if you want to be really bullshit sentimental about it, who's to say like it was even their thing to begin with? Like maybe they were like just the vehicle for something that was always supposed to be out there. There are like paintings where you're like, this feels like it is like just belongs in the world and like it's part of everything else. And there's songs like that to me too. But anyways,
no, I totally agree. I think Michael Jackson's a really good example of it because we already had pretty much universally grown to love him, and then on the back end kind of found out some shit. The R. Kelly thing is interesting because it's like he was definitely huge, but he's got one song that's huge, and then the rest of his shit's kind of just shit that's out there.
R. Kelly feels like, with all that being said that I just said, if someone listened to R. Kelly and I heard them, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
right?
Because even before that, R. Kelly,
there's
was
other
just,
shit that's similar enough.
Yeah, he was not a great artist necessarily.
Yeah.
He had a good voice and sang some good songs, but like good songs. One good song.
Objectively, yeah.
I would be sad if I Believe I Can Fly was removed from the world entirely, I guess.
Yeah. That's probably his most harmless song. It's not about like bumping and grinding or anything like
True.
that. But then you got like you got like the Cosby Show, where it's like people argue that it deserves a spot in the conversation still because of its cultural significance. But I think in my opinion, there's been enough TV made since the Cosby Show that like there's other examples of shit we could use instead and kind of just drop things like that from the narrative. And like there's also like Woody Allen, like 15 years ago, he was a huge part of the cultural conversation, but like now he's just an old fucking creep. Like everyone thinks he's an old fucking creep. Even people that like him are like, you're an old fucking creep.
For sure. There's no denying that. But I still like Woody Allen movies.
Yeah, but I don't think he'll be like discussed like hundreds of years from now. I think like Michael
20 years
Jackson
from now, when
be,
someone's watching a Woody Allen, if someone watches a Woody Allen movie, no one will be like, don't you know he was a bad person?
people might forget.
I
People might not even
I think they will.
associate. But that's the thing.
So I think most of the directors,
his movies, I don't think his movies will stay
I think
culturally
that
relevant for that long.
he has so many like Criterion Collection movies, that are like,
yeah,
I think people will always be interested in like classic cinema.
maybe. Well, yes and no. I think cinema, like TV and movies, have like a shortened shelf life because there's just so much more output.
Yeah, nowadays,
Yeah,
especially,
they seem to be replacing faster.
But I think people always want to go and be like, what were movies like in the 70s?
I think
and then Woody Allen will.
People like younger than us won't give a fuck. Truly, I think that if they do give a fuck, it won't be for decades. Like,
you think people won't like long for the past or be as nostalgic as we are?
I don't think so.
I could, yeah. I've never really thought about that, but I could see that being right or true with how much stuff we put out nowadays. That there's never any time to be interested in anything else that's happening.
You can't form like special relationships with anything because it's like
no,
it's irrelevant by the next business or by the next news cycle.
Yeah, and it is already getting harder to like go back and watch old stuff I used to love because there's always something new to watch.
Well, and a lot of
too.
that sentimentality, I feel like I get a lot of that sentimentality of like wanting to watch old shows or just listen to older music because of like my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, our parents are like pretty fucking old at this point, and like kids, I feel like kids 5 years younger than us, their parents are like 15, 20 years younger than our parents. So it's
Yeah.
like the things that they're nostalgic for are totally different. And I think that's why there's like an emo resurgence and like kind of a punk goth resurgence, because like
Isn't
a lot
that
of that
crazy
is
that was long enough ago though for it to be
like
a nostalgic thing?
revitalized.
Yeah, revitalized. But because for us, that's our childhood.
Totally.
And so it's trippy to relate that back to previous decades to be like kids who are obsessed with the 2000s and are now were like kids who liked the 70s and the 90s.
Totally. And that's like
That's
a
trippy
20
as
year
hell.
well, it might even be more than that depending on exactly what you're talking about, because
Yeah,
I
'cause
mean like a
people-
lot of my friends were listening to music from like the 60s and 70s because of their parents, like the Grateful Dead and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and shit
And now
like
that's
that.
only going back to the 80s.
It's only going, yeah, it's back to the 80s.
Yeah.
For some people, it's only going back to like the 2000s or mid 2000s. You know,
I just mean like it for us people who were in the 60s when we were kids. That's like a 40-year difference. So 40-year difference from now is the 80s.
the 80s. I think that kind of. I think like that interest level, like in the decades, got like shorter because people started having kids younger too. If that makes sense.
Yeah, the 80s always felt so far out for me though, where like even in
The 90s feel accessible and kind of close, but the 80s are like.
Well, I love a lot of music from the 80s, but like even in like the late 2000s when I started to get into like new wave and shit as a kid, I never put it in perspective. Like this was only like 20 years ago. I feel like this is like fucking like
So
classic
long.
rock so
Yeah.
long ago. Whereas at like 10 years later, I was like, oh, the 90s are like pretty recent still. I still felt like the
Yeah.
80s were far out.
I
Far
totally.
out. The 80s were far out.
They were, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Well,
I totally agree, and I think I guess like the most interesting or just like the funniest part of it is that it'll be something that always happens, like a version of it will always happen where there's like a nostalgia for the past. But yeah, I think that with the amount of content, especially content that's just created purely to go straight to a digital platform, like
yeah.
there just won't be as much of a look back maybe.
And to bring it back to AI, that's why it's threatening in arts is because people are stopping to care about the quality of things, especially the people who make money from producing things. They don't care about making great art. They just care about
A quick
coming
buck.
out with something.
Yep.
Quick buck. Content is king. You always got to be doing something. And in that way, we very much are just ruining art and stripping all meaning from it.
Yeah.
And if that's certainly what sells, so that's what people are going to still asking for. And then in that case, AI can do it better and faster. So this is an interesting time for the whole writer's strike happening. That's about pay.
Yeah.
And
It's about streaming pay, right?
yeah. But that it kind of corresponded with like ChatGPT becoming such a thing. Like people even like there's a South Park episode that was partly written by ChatGPT, and it's not that I think this at all, but like if I were a writer, I'd be like, oh, it's kind of maybe we shouldn't strike right now when there's a lot of conversation going on about AI replacing writers.
Yeah.
Because I bet it's giving a lot of Hollywood executives the idea like we won't have to deal with this shit if it's
And
we have
like
less writers.
so this is kind of a different stream of thought, but also funny that you mention it now because so like talk shows have gone away. There's no late night, and I think more than people asking the question, what can we do to get the shows back on the air? People are asking the question, why do we have late night talk shows? No one likes them.
They're so out
They're
of touch.
stale.
Yeah.
They're a format that was from the 60s that hasn't been refreshed essentially since then.
Mm-hmm.
So no one's interested in them anymore. And so the fear of streaming rights, getting paid for, and I agree, like you create something, it gets on streaming, that's where it gets the majority of the engagement. Yeah, you should get fucking paid for that. Of course you should. Same thing for musicians. If all of our streams come from Spotify and we receive 1 cent a year, it's kind of fucked up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I think we've answered some of these questions in like a different perspective, where it's like, as opposed to the writers wanting us to question what we can do so that they can be fairly paid for their content creation, we have responded with the question of, why the fuck do we even like want you here? Like, and so there's like no push for that, and ultimately like this affects people writing TV shows, movies, like all of it. So it's super important conversation, but it'd be interesting to see if some things kind of phase out or decline in not only attendance, but just like overall social relevance because of this. Because I think ultimately, yeah, these talk shows, if they come back onto the air, there's gonna just be by proxy lower engagements, lower view counts, because people have fucking forgotten why they even cared to begin with.
It's so out of touch, and like, if you care about anyone in particular coming on a talk show, you're not gonna watch that talk show, because I guarantee you they've been on 100 podcasts where they talk in depth.
You can
for
see a
3
long
hours.
form episode now, and people are. It's interesting. Sorry to hijack, but like,
No, you're good.
people, there's extremes on the spectrum. I feel like where people on social media can't watch anything that's like longer than a minute, right? That's like a common thing. People, if you post a minute long video, you're gonna have like 10% of the people see the whole thing. 90% of those people are gonna watch the first 10 seconds and then scroll to the next thing. But on the flip side of that, we have long form media now for like every fucking person has a podcast. So it's like, yeah, you can see anyone you like and you can actually engage with them on a long form level and learn about them.
It is funny to say people's attention spans are shortening, because like on one end, yeah, we have like the scrolling, doom scrolling shit and all that. But like, as on the other hand, it's crazy that like people have abandoned everything else and now listen to like 4-hour long podcasts sometimes.
And that's what a lot of people do.
An abundance of attention for some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, and I think that's super hopeful, because it's like you just got to give them the right shit to care about.
Right. Yeah.
You're not going to find it on social media. If you're sucked into that universe, then yeah, it's hard to get out of it.
And social media is designed for short attention
Totally.
spans. Like, and that's the mindset you adopt. Can we pause for a second? I'm gonna rock a piss and we'll come back. All right.
You ever see a band that you played with like a long time ago, like an out-of-state band that you played with a long time ago, come back through and they're playing with different bands and you get kind of offended?
Yeah, that has happened. Yeah. Do you want
I'm not going to
call
mention the
anyone out?
band. No, I'm not going to mention the band, but there's a band that came through, played with Foreign Words, I think, a long time ago. It might have been Blue Taboo, but I think it was Foreign Words. Played with us a long time ago, and it was at Surf. It was a pretty good show. They were pretty fun. We were all right, too. I think it was a good show. And I forgot about them until right now, and then I just saw that they're playing with someone.
Well, if it was Blue, can't blame him. She doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, that definitely would be understandable. Well, they didn't try to hit us up, though. They don't know that we're not playing anymore. Just because we haven't posted since 2019 doesn't mean we're not a band anymore.
No, that is like, it's like, you don't have any loyalty?
Yeah.
Does that not matter for anything
Did
anymore?
you forget, too?
Yeah.
Were we as forgettable as you were?
You're not making a very strong case for this.
Well,
but,
it's a good thing I didn't say their name.
Yeah. I will have to wrap it up here soon, brother, because it's getting late into the nights.
It's a late one.
But I did want to ask you if there is either or both an artist you're excited about right now or an artist you can't stand right now.
Holy shit. I'm going to say this just because it'll piss off someone, hopefully, if someone's listening. I'm really fucking sick of hearing about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I don't, and no, it's not like, I'm not like unique for saying or thinking that because she's getting a lot of hate right now, but it's just like, it's not even like that I don't like her music. It's just that I think she gets too much of the conversation. And like,
Yeah.
I've been pissed off at Aaron Dessner because his Instagram is now literally just like a Taylor Swift fucking hype page.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a
oh, I
stan
did this
account.
with Taylor. Oh, we did this together.
I
love
literally
you, Taylor.
stopped following her.
Oh,
I was so annoyed.
fucking
Yeah.
annoying. It's like, yeah, we get it, dude. You're
It's-
hanging out with a famous
It's
person.
affected my feelings about the National, honestly, too.
Kind of same. Like the new
Yeah.
album feels like a pandering call to like Taylor Swift fans a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you guys like Taylor Swift? You might like us too.
Yeah.
It's like,
we can
no.
do something in the same folky rock vein.
No. So yeah, sick of that. And also at the same time, I mean, so I was probably more hyped about the Queens of the Stone Age than anything else. I know we've
Yeah.
already talked about it a lot, but I was very, very hyped. I guess the other thing I'll mention is the Bombay Bicycle Club record is coming out in October.
I'm a huge fan of.
And there's a
BBC.
surprise guest that they still haven't revealed yet, but they
Mhm.
said it's like huge, like a big, big secret guest.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I think it'll be like super different and like very just like modern sounding. So I'm excited about that.
I don't want to. I can't call out any particular artist I hate right now, but last night
Taylor Swift
was
again.
the fourth. Yeah, Julia loves Taylor Swift. We listened
Fuck
to a
you,
lot of it.
Julia.
I'm like, I'm gonna show this to her.
Keep it
Clip
fucking
this.
consistent.
But I had a barbecue last night for 4th of July. Had some people over, and Julia was like, I was playing music. I wanted to play Black Grape and some weird jazz records. And
Like happy 4th.
Yeah. And Julia was like, can you play some party music? I'm like, this is great party music. This is a good jazz album. I thought it was great for the vibe. And she was like, no, like play some like something people know, like play some Lana Del Rey or something. So I looked up summer indie playlist on Spotify. Played through that, and I was like listening to it really carefully during the party just to hear what was on it, and I just realized there's like a weird thing like indie pop going on right now, where there's like it was literally like 1,000 of the same song over and over. And I'm sure all those songs are very well, not to diss those artists, but it was like really blowing my mind. I was like, wow, it's just all these like countless artists with like these like indie pop songs that sound pretty much exactly the same, but on like at the same time like they're good songs, but it's because they all follow the same formula.
Yeah, they're only good because they're catchy.
Yeah, they're not songs
Catchy,
that
the same thing.
exactly.
Good.
I get catchy is a word. I was like, all these are going for so insanely catchy. It's like obnoxious how
That's the
catchy
goal.
they want to be. Yeah,
The only goal that like indie bands have and like indie pop bands especially have is write something that's less than 3 minutes long so that it'll get on playlists, make it super fucking catchy so that people will obviously listen to it a bunch of times.
yeah,
And then simplify it as much as possible so that it's like memorable. But it's like if every song you write is to be on like a Spotify playlist, then like literally fucking kill yourself.
Yeah. I know. Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop.
It's making us feel like we hate genres of music that we should really not be hating
It
on.
makes
like,
me feel like I hate music sometimes. Like I feel like this is all played out.
It's a
like,
gimmick.
Yeah, it's a gimmick. It doesn't matter. But anyways, we go down a rant.
Take a deep breath.
A band I've been fucking with a lot lately is Radiohead, which I've obviously always fucked with.
Yeah.
And I wanted to name a new artist here, but I was having trouble coming up with one on the spot. But I've just been
Fuck
listening.
The Smile, dude.
Oh, The Smile,
They're
of
supposed
course.
to be
Yeah.
putting something out this year or
Yeah.
next year.
So I've also been listening to a lot of The Smile. But since we've talked about Radiohead and I've been listening to a lot of them, just like that's all I've wanted to
Totally.
listen to lately. And
Any particular?
I listened to King of Limbs I've been listening to like the later stuff. not so much the 90s stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Which is big for me.
What'd you think about the King of Limbs?
I love it. I think it's a great album. I was a big fan of it when it came out too.
Okay.
It was an album I was pretty familiar with, but I'm going back to and like listening to like weird B-sides and unreleased stuff. I couldn't like from around that same time.
All the B-sides from that era are fucking fire.
Yeah, they are.
So good.
Yeah. But yeah, shout out Radiohead.
Not like they need it, but they'll get it anyway.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
The new Smile song, Bending Hectic.
Bending Hectic, so cool. That
super good.
Guitar riff, if you want to call it that riff at the beginning, at first I was like, wow, that's crazy. He's just doing like random, like a finger exercise almost like over this. But then I became like so mesmerized by it. And like the sound of it too, it just sounds like a guitar in the same room with you somehow. And I'm like, man, Johnny Greenwood was such a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Like only he could do something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what continuously blows me away about Johnny Greenwood is like no matter the context, he's always doing something that only fucking he would do.
Yeah,
like
and it delivers like
100%
every
of the time.
I can't think of a single instance where I'm like, fuck that riff that Johnny Greenwood's playing.
It's always exactly the right thing, and it's always surprising and like progressive, but it's always at the same time like incredibly familiar and like
that was like with Bending Hectic. First time I heard the riff played through, I was like, oh, what is he doing? And then second time I was like, wow, I love this. Like this is comforting. Like it feels like it belongs.
It's simultaneously something that I've never heard before and reminds me of every Radiohead song from the 90s ever, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, how can it be both?
Yeah.
But it is.
They're like one of the few bands where I'm like just so interested in their songwriting more than like the sound of the songs even actually, you know, like just listening to it truly being like, what are they going to do next? Like, how, and then being blown away. We're like, other bands, like, obviously appreciate them as great songwriters, but it's like, I'm listening to the song because I like the song and the way it sounds. I'm not, like, hanging on every word and every change.
To it.
Yeah.
It has, like, a comfort to it.
Yeah. But with
Radiohead
the
is
Smile,
more just like,
like, the Smile especially, it's like, I don't know, it's so fucking
It's
good.
very captivating because I think it takes a lot more world music influence kind of than some of the Radiohead did, which it's just to say that they worked with different people. I think like you change the mix a little bit and you're going to have slightly different sounds, but yeah, I think they're truly just like at this point in their lives and like their musical careers, they're just like bona fide fucking professionals. Like they can branch into different genres. They can kind of bend things more. There's less of an expectation to do things a certain way, and they just do it, and they don't give a fuck. Like whatever suits the song is what they will do. And like the end of Bending Hectic is like arguably, in my opinion, it's like one of the heaviest fucking
and just the way they take it there is so crazy.
How they get
no one
to
else
that
could
point.
do that.
Yeah.
I think them and Damon Albarn are the heaviest hitters we have in music right now.
Shit.
And Damon Albarn, I wouldn't say like is on the same level, like musically maybe, or like technically proficient as those guys, but just the way he like produces banger after banger and like stays so relevant, and you know, just Gorillaz being around is pretty rad. Well,
and him pulling out other musical outfits, like I feel like when he feels like are appropriate times, if that makes sense. Like he doesn't. It's not like we're having a new Blur album every 5 years.
Yeah.
It's like they wait till they have something to say. And his solo shit too, like the Nearer the Fountain, More Pure the Stream Flows. I don't know if you've ever listened to that.
I have, yeah.
God, it's fucking breathtaking.
It is.
It's beautiful and it's minimalist and it is, I mean, it fuses so many different things and it's just like in between Gorillaz records, he just did that. It's kind of like, holy shit, you know? How the fuck do you manage to just continually be a machine of different creative energy?
And you ever listen to The Good, the Bad, and the Queen?
Yeah.
That is I listen to those songs like going back to the beginning, the algorithm. I think the algorithm thinks I really love The Good, the Bad, and the Queen because that probably comes on in my shuffle
It's
the
interesting
most
too,
often of anything
because I was
else.
watching a Damon Albarn interview from like a few years ago, and he introduces himself, he's like, "I'm Damon Albarn from The Good, the Bad, and the Queen."
Yeah,
He doesn't mention Gorillaz or Blur.
Yeah. And two of the other biggest groups I've ever heard of. That's cool.
Yeah,
I listened to an interview with Paul Simonon, who's from the Clash.
Simonon.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his name. From the Clash and Good, the Bad, the Queen, and he was so cavalier about The Good, the Bad, and the Queen, and like so like casual about it, and like didn't seem to really care about it at all. That it kind of endeared me to it even more.
It kind of seems just like a passion project.
Yeah,
like,
he was like, I don't really give it. He's like, oh, it's fucking. Just look at my paintings. I paint now too. But anyways, brother.
All right.
I should probably get going.
Fucking good shit.
Great
I gotta
pod.
piss now too.
We should do pods when we have nothing to talk about more often.
I agree.
We'll have to figure out a name for this one, but we'll come up with something.
We'll just call it "Fuck You."
All right. Thanks for listening
all the
to
people I said "fuck you" to today.
Podcadzo.
Podcadzo.